get started. And I just thought I would start with a couple of fun little videos.
Yeah, you can start moving her up a little bit. I'm better on mine.
This is I don't know why that stopped. This is from a public access class that we did. So I'm just going to show a few little video clips. So we um, welcome, Beth. I was just speaking with Lydia before you got here about finding a dog to train as a service dog for her child. And actually, this woman that you see here on the stretcher is the mother of an adult daughter with developmental disabilities. And we trained Heidi, this Labradoodle here, as her service dog. And this was a class that we did with first responders. So she's learning to do well with all of the things that involve firefighters and ambulances. So what we're going to talk about today, I'm Sharon Waxler. I'm the owner and head trainer at Your Service Dog Training. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about what I do and why I do this. I love doing these Q&A sessions. There's so much to learn about training your own service dog, and there's so much confusing and conflicting information out there. So I just love to be able to speak with people directly and provide answers and objective information, try to make your life and your process easier as you're embarking on this journey. So I'm going to say a little bit about my background, then I'm just going to open it up for questions, and whatever questions you have, I'm happy to answer them. And then at the end, I'll cover some resources and how to get started with wherever your next point is in the process. This is another video. This is also from a public access class. This was at Holyoke Mall, which is a large shopping mall in our area.
Yes. That was a dog and food.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Ready?
Sharon, for me, this is getting frozen and
Oh, really?
feeling muffled, so I'm not sure if it's.
Is the video playing, Lydia and Beth, for you?
It's skipping and muffled.
Sorry. I don't know why that's happening. Well, I'll just tell you a little bit about what's in that. So those are 3 service dogs in training from a few years ago. The Black Lab graduated, completed training, and the Golden Retriever did as well. This was a warm-up session where they were just warming up, training around other dogs and people in a noisy, busy environment and with food on the floor. The Australian Shepherd was career changed. His handler actually went into social work school and to do to be animal assisted therapy. And this video, well, I don't know why the videos aren't playing properly. I was going to show this quick snippet of task training. So I guess I'll just start it, and Lori, just give me a thumbs up if you feel like it's playing okay, and if it's not, give me a thumbs down and I'll just turn it off. Okay, so that's Carol and Finn. This was online lessons. We were training Finn to alert Carol when she was scratching herself, which she would do and not realize she was doing it. And this is the beginning of the process before he got fully trained to do it anywhere, everywhere. And even if she was just kind of picking at a thumbnail is where he went to eventually. So I just wanted to show you a couple examples of what it can look like when you're training your own service dog. Um, so if there's a lot of people, I ask people to keep their mic muted. Since there's just a couple of us tonight, we can be pretty relaxed. If you have questions to ask, you can unmute yourself since it's a small group, or you can type them in the chat, whichever you prefer. Any question that you have is welcome on any aspect of service dogs or service dog training. Sometimes if your question is very complicated and involved step-by-step training question, I might not be able to answer it because we really like to do things with a very individualized approach, really focused on you and your dog and what makes sense for you as a team, and that varies a lot from person to person. I'll just tell you a little about myself. So I come from where you come from. I started training a service dog for myself first in 1998. At that time, it was a really unusual thing to do. There was very little information, very few resources for training your own service dog. Most people had never heard of training your own service dog. I was severely chronically ill for 18 years, and I spent 16 of those years training 3 service dogs for myself. First one, and then that one was getting older. I trained my next one, and then my next one. I also worked in disability information and referral, so my roots in the disability community are deep, and I've been working with people with disabilities or the families of people with disabilities to train their own service dogs since 2014. All 3 of the trainers who work with me, who I am one of 3 trainers, are certified professional dog trainers, knowledge assessed through the Certification Council of Professional Dog Trainers. And then I also am a graduate with distinction from Karen Pryor Academy for animal training and behavior. So I'm a Karen Pryor Academy certified training partner. My senior trainer is Alex Weiss. That's them there with the white pit bull doing some deep pressure therapy. They are currently training their second service dog right now. They have been a professional trainer since 2015, doing pet and service dog training as well. And then our newest member of our training team is Eli. He grew up as a guide dog puppy raiser, a foster family for guide dog puppies, and then was in my mentorship program for a year. And now he is our board and train trainer. So service dogs in training stay with him in his home, and he does an amazing job with training them. And that is Bodie, that little white Labradoodle there with Eli. And he is a dog that I helped his owner select. She did pre-adoption consulting with me, and then we selected him and started training him for her son, who is now 9 years old. And he's doing fantastic, and he's almost completed his training. So, so what we do is help people with disabilities and their families to train their own service dogs, whether that's a psychiatric condition or a physical condition. I can help people find the right dog to train, or if you already have the dog you want to train, help you train that dog. We do most of our training online, group online classes, as well as private lessons for more advanced skills like tasks and sometimes public access training. And then we also do in-person training for those in Massachusetts. I'm in Western Mass in the Pioneer Valley area. And then I also travel to the Boston area about once a month or so. And then we also have board and train, as I mentioned. Usually that is a process of the dog stays with our trainer for a week or 2, then goes home for a period of time, then comes back. And that round trip process seems to work really well for the dogs and for the families, because they get a break from the dog and training. The dog gets a lot of really skilled training in a home environment, but doesn't have the stress of being away from home for a long time. So the families don't have to miss their dog as well. So that is our focus, is owner training service dogs. We do a little bit of some related things. I have a mentorship program for professional reward-based trainers who want to learn about becoming a service dog trainer or want to increase their skills as a service dog trainer. And I also do some consulting on service dog training or training for pets for people with disabilities, therapy dogs, things like that. We train a wide variety of service dogs. Since I was disabled myself and using a wheelchair for many years, I have a lot of experience with training mobility service dogs. Most of our clients have psychiatric conditions. A lot of our clients have PTSD or are on the autism spectrum or have anxiety or depression, but we work with other types of mental health disabilities as well. We also do sound alert, both for people who are deaf and hard of hearing or for other issues like cognitive impairment, memory, ADHD, and then a variety of other types of conditions, traumatic brain injury, sensory processing, things like that. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to type them in the chat, or since there's a small group tonight, you can also just, if you prefer, unmute yourself and ask your question. It can be on any topic that you're curious about. I'm happy to answer. And go
Sharon,
ahead.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I am a dog breeder, and I often have people ask about, temperaments of puppies, and at what age are you able to distinguish if it's a go for a therapy dog?
I love that you're a breeder and that you're coming here and asking this question. So, the process of finding and selecting dogs is so important, but it's also really difficult. It's complicated. So the way that I usually start is to work with a client and get a lot of information about them and their life and what they're looking for, and what would be a good fit for them. And then I help them to identify responsible, reputable breeders, who are doing health testing and, breeding for temperament and all those things. And then I usually speak with the breeder, have the client speak with the breeder and find out, let them know what we're looking for, see if the breeder thinks they have a litter coming up that might produce a dog with that type of temperament or personality. And then I ask the breeder to choose their top 2 or 3 puppies in that litter that they think meet the criteria. And then we might do some testing online or something like that. Did I just freeze because my computer is saying my internet connection is unstable?
You did just for a very short time,
Okay.
but yeah, I
They've
caught
been
that. So
okay.
yeah,
They've been doing stuff with the internet in my area for the last week, and this doesn't normally happen. But
yeah.
so so that's the process that we use in terms of how to identify the puppy that meets that criteria. For one thing, I do have a booklet, the ebook that I'd love to send you that is for breeders about what we're looking for in a service dog prospect. It's yeah. And so there's sort of a broad overview of that as well in the video that's on the homepage of our website. Lori, if you want to just stick to our website, it's on the bottom of the screen, but if you go to the website, there is a video. It's 40 minutes, so it's not just a quick video, but it does about 16 minutes goes into the characteristics that you're looking for typically in a service dog prospect. So that's useful information for breeders too, but I go into a little bit more information in my ebook. For a service dog prospect in general, we're looking for a dog who is relaxed, friendly, comfortable around strangers, loves people, very comfortable with people, very comfortable with novelty, likes to be in new places, around new things, not worried about any of those things, very confident. a dog who is not too prey driven, not very excited about movement and chasing things. A dog who is not worried about sudden or unexpected sounds or loud sounds, because there are unexpected sounds in the environment all the time that we don't control. A dog who's very food motivated, just because it is the easiest dog to train, is a dog who loves food. Um, a dog who is neutral about or friendly with other dogs. Ideally, not super friendly and excited about other dogs. But it's better to have a dog who's a little bit too excited than a dog who is fearful or nervous.
See that.
Yeah, what else am I forgetting? Healthy dog, physically healthy, not having any chronic health issues. Feel like I'm forgetting one. Oh, moderate energy level. So typically we want a dog who um, is happy to work if they know that there's a potential treat in it for them, but really very good at lying around and tolerating boredom. Because a lot of a service dog's job is we walk to this location, and then while the person is at an appointment, a doctor's appointment, or in a class or at work, the dog is just lying there. So a
Right.
dog who's just easily able to sort of go to sleep wherever.
Yeah.
So that's some of the broad strokes. There's other things that go into it too, like biddability. Um, and there's differences based on the specific needs of the handler. Like Lydia was talking about finding a service dog for her child. So if I'm working with a parent, I also want to try to find a dog that actively really likes kids. Um, a dog who's super likely to be comfortable with a lot of noise and chaos and things like that. Um, and if we're doing something that involves, say, sound alert, like the handler is going to be deaf and hard of hearing, or if we're going to be doing medical detection, like the handler is going to have diabetes and the dog's going to need to do scent detection, then we might want a puppy who really is very sniffy. So there's going to be variations, but that's kind of the broad strokes. In terms of how you identify that puppy, that's sort of the $64 million question. I do rely a lot on breeders, because your dogs, how they tend to mature. I pay a lot of attention to the parents and the grandparents and the siblings. I want to know about your lines and what kind of dog you're breeding for. And, have you done this this pairing before? What kind of puppies did it produce? Um, and then, as you know, within a litter, there's quite a range of temperaments. So we're looking for that puppy who is, in an ideal world, the puppy who's not really bothered by much of anything, a little on the chill side. One of the things that I often say about a service dog is we're looking for a dandelion and not an orchid. Because a lot of dogs, given just the right circumstances, can do well. But a service dog needs to be able to do well in all sorts of circumstances that most dogs aren't in, because most dogs have a really sort of predictable life in a sort of a small sphere. They're in their home and they're on their walk in their neighborhood, and maybe occasionally they go to the kids' soccer game or whatever. But a service dog is going everywhere all the time, constantly surrounded by novelty and strangers. And it's gotten harder too, like Guide Dogs for the Blind transitioned to reward-based training several years ago. And one of the reasons that they gave for that is that the environment has gotten so much more stressful. It's gotten louder, it's gotten more congested, it's more stressful for service dogs to be out in the world. And they didn't want to add to those dogs' stresses by also using correction-based training. So, so in terms of when to assess the puppies, I mean, I'm assuming that this sounds familiar to you. Most breeders I speak to are sort of learning the personalities, temperaments of the puppies
Right.
all day, every day. And
Right.
then, usually keeping some type of record of, which puppies are doing what, when, and, which puppies are bolder and which puppies are more
Right.
reticent, and sort of tracking it, and getting a sense, as they mature. Sometimes there are, things that wax and wane, and seeing like which of these characteristics tend to be,
Mhm.
continuing, and which of them, like, that happened one day and now I haven't seen that again. Um, and so really getting a sense of which puppy you think is going to be, likely to sort of fulfill those criteria. And then, it's really important to me when I'm working with a client who's looking for a puppy to, for them to be willing to, follow what the breeder is recommending. So if they really have a strong preference for male or female, okay. But generally speaking, I want them to just take the puppy whose temperament is the best match. And I strongly prefer to work with a breeder who will say to me, I am going to select this service dog prospect first, and all of the other puppies will be selected after that. Because if um, if you have several clients who want a service dog puppy, for example, that can be really dicey because maybe not every puppy in that litter is going to be a service dog prospect.
Right.
Um, so because that puppy needs to, uh, fulfill a job, and there's so much riding on it, and or if you're choosing the other puppies first and you're doing it on the basis of like, okay, you get fourth choice or fifth choice, it might be that the puppies that are left are not a good match. That
Right.
was a lot of talking, so let me
Yeah.
just check in and see if you have
Yeah.
any
And that's kind of how I place our puppies is a
Yeah.
match system, not necessarily just for um, therapy dogs or service dogs, but
Yeah.
for matching the right puppy with the right family. So
Yeah.
we do the personality test, and that helps a lot.
Mhm.
It actually helps me, I think, more just for when we start working with them in training, because I know the puppies' personalities, and then I can
Mhm.
relay that on to the buyer. And yeah, it helps the
Yeah.
families adjust. But
Yeah.
I've had people ask me, about service dogs, and it's just all new to me. I've done puppy training and worked with puppies, but what you're saying as far as criteria for the puppy, I can see that coming out more in the 3 to 4 month age versus that eight
Yeah.
month old age that
Yeah.
people tend to want to get their puppies.
Right, right. Yeah. So to that, I am actually giving a webinar in November. Maybe Lori, if you want to put the information in the chat. It is it's two 90-minute, sessions on finding the right dog to train as your service dog. And it is geared toward people who are thinking or planning on getting a dog to train as a service dog, but it would be fantastic too for breeders or folks in rescue, to attend as well, because, um, I go into so much information that I can't cover in just, an individual consultation. So I talk about the pros and cons of training your own versus getting a program trained dog, because sometimes for some people, one option is much better than the other. And I go into all the variables that might make one better or the other. And then pros and cons of puppies versus adults. And that's a key consideration. What you just said, Beth, is that we know so much more about who a dog is by the time that they're one, than we do when they're 8 weeks.
Mhm.
So in some situations, it is really, great to get an adolescent or adult dog. Sometimes I've had really great service dogs. The golden retriever in the video, in the mall, he was, breeder had retained him from her litter to show him in conformation, and I don't remember. Oh, one of his testicles hadn't descended, so she decided to place him, and he was, I think, 8 months when we purchased him. And that was just, I just love when we can get an adolescent or young adult dog from a breeder just because of something like that, that's not affecting at all his health or his temperament. Um, so sometimes that's a good option. So the webinar goes into what to look for in a breeder, what to look for in a dog, considerations for the whole process, how to go about the search process, and all of that is groundwork before actually meeting with me, because sometimes when people really find out what the process of owner training is about, and I try to be very honest, um, they decide, well, actually, I think I want an emotional support animal for my child instead, or I think I want to get a trained service dog for myself instead, or now I know about this and I definitely want a puppy, or now I know I definitely want an adult or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, each
So
situation would be different, but I could
yeah,
see that.
there's a lot of individual variables, which is what I go over some of those things to think about in the webinars. And then when I'm meeting with somebody one-on-one, I make recommendations directly because I've asked them a lot of information about themselves and some paperwork, and gotten to know them a little bit. But the booklet, I guess, Lori, are we going to email people some resources after?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that the
okay.
same ebook that we,
It's
or
a
is it
different
a
ebook.
different one? Okay.
So we also have an ebook, which you can get on our website when you subscribe to our newsletter, which is basics on puppy raising and manners, basic manners training, as well. And that's also great for breeders, as well as for people who are training their own service dogs, or trainers, to download that. So we will send you some resources and information. But if I bring up something tonight and you don't get it from us, feel free to email us and we'll try to get it to you. Let's see. I'm just looking through the chat. Okay, other people are wanting that booklet. Yeah, I was wondering too, Beth, what you breed. Oh, labs and mini labradoodles. Okay, great. Labs are my #1 recommendation. So all other things being equal, I often will recommend a lab, but then I also work with some families where the individual who needs a service dog is allergic, and then often folks want a labradoodle or something like that. So that's great.
So
I'm
Lydia
always
and
looking for,
Shannon
yes,
did have their hands up, just so you know.
great. Okay,
I think
thank you.
Lyd
I'm
E-
always happy to meet trainers. Let's see, Lydia, did you have your hand up first? Let's go to you, Lydia.
Okay, it's just a really quick question. So, eventually, right, when training and you're training to, like for the symptoms, like being like, whatever the symptom is. For example, I'm taking medication to mitigate my symptoms. So,
Mhm.
um, if during the training, because I know that I have triggers, but I'm also more symptomatic if I get off of my medicine.
Mhm.
And so have you ever experienced anyone or someone that was like, oh, okay, let me get off my medicine so that so that the dog can see those behaviors,
Mm.
and then go back on the medication? I don't know. Or because so it's PTSD, but like, and I
Mhm.
know, like some of my triggers and things like that, but definitely highly more symptomatic without medication.
Right. So a couple of things. So I will sometimes work with the client and their healthcare provider. So usually in most cases, the client is communicating with their doctor or therapist and the client is telling me themselves what their needs are or what their challenges are and things like that. Sometimes I will also recommend to a client that the client and I and their healthcare provider all meet and discuss things. But in a case where you're describing, like considering going off your medication, I'm not a medical professional and I would never recommend that somebody go off their medication without speaking to their healthcare team about that first. So
Yeah.
that's just the first thing to start with is, you know, you it is important that the service dog and the process of training the service dog be beneficial to your health, your mental and physical health, and not detrimental. And it has the potential to do either or both. And so it's really important that you're not doing things that are causing you mental or physical harm in the training process. So I wouldn't start with that.
Okay.
In terms of, I'm just going to mute you for a second, Linda, because there's a little bit of background noise. Actually, I think Lori's going to do that.
Okay.
So, you know, it depends on what you need the dog to do. It sounds like you're saying that you want the dog to do some alerting to your symptoms. And that's not the only thing that a PTSD service dog can do. So that would be one thing, is that we would talk about what your task needs are, and which of those is the most important and which of those is the easiest to train. And we would make a plan as to what we're going to train first based on that. Um, for example, a lot of our clients with PTSD really want their dog to be trained to do deep pressure therapy, DPT. And we have a course that Alex created and teaches, which is really lovely, which trains a really functional, useful deep pressure behavior of the dog lying on a specific body part, and also does, if you want, kisses, the dog licking a specific body part, and chin rest, the dog resting their chin on your hand or your leg or whatever. So for that behavior, the dog, you don't need to be having obvious symptoms. You can just tell the dog that's what you need, and they can respond to that cue. Or, you know, if you forget to take medication and you want the dog to remind you to take medication, you don't need to be off your medication or symptomatic for that. Or if you want your dog to turn on lights before you go into a dark room. So there's a lot of things that a service dog can do depending on your needs, that don't require you to be symptomatic. If you want your dog to respond when you have symptoms, or to alert you to having symptoms, that is something that we can train. But the specifics of that are really complex. And I definitely don't want to say, oh, go off your medication to do that. Sometimes for some conditions, people go off their medication when they're gathering scent samples to do that training. For example, for migraines, sometimes some people will go off their migraine medication so that they can gather samples, saliva samples when they have migraines. They're doing it for a limited period of time. But it's a complex question, and it's not something that I would just recommend without having like a really careful discussion with somebody. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And was Shannon the other person who had their hand up? Shannon, you can either
Yeah.
type your question in the chat or
Yeah.
unmute.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? I'm
Good.
gonna just show you my face for a minute here because I'm actually just making food while I'm watching you. I attended your webinar last year, so I'm very excited to hear from you again. Basically went and combed through your website and wanted to just like throw in the towel and model everything I do after yours. So it's really well set up. So I'm actually a KPA and an Atlas certified trainer.
Oh, awesome.
So I just had three things to say. Firstly, I have a question for you. I have two questions for you, but I'm going to sandwich that with one comment for Beth, because maybe when you, Sharon, are like, you've been at this so long, I'm kind of at the beginning of the journey, and I remember, like, you might not remember some things that like come up often when you're inexperienced, maybe. But like when you are being approached by someone for a service dog, I would highly like recommend that you have some sort of grain, like line in the sand of like, they need to be working with a trainer, because if they just approach you and they're like, I want to train my own service dog, the likelihood of success would be pretty low, I think. So just as your own reputation for a breeder, and if you want to like get serious about doing that, I would say like the trainer partnerships are really, really important. And to kind of like maybe make that a priority for your buyers, that you have certain trainers maybe locally that you recommend, that you get to know, or even online if they're working with Sharon's team or whatever. There's options for people. So just that they have a support that you're gonna, if you're gonna say yes to like selling them a puppy under that pretense. That's just my like 2 cents on that. Does that make sense, Sharon?
Yeah, and I love partnering with breeders. I mean, it's so important, and I love when breeders refer clients to me for the reasons that you're saying, that it's a lot to raise a puppy, even a pet, like under
Yeah.
the best of circumstances. But to train a service dog is a huge undertaking, and
Yeah.
having a qualified trainer on board is so important.
If
Yeah.
you're going to like market yourself as such and kind of like gear your program toward that, you want to have success. So I would say like that would increase your odds of success. And like therapy dog is a whole different thing. Like if someone wants to raise a dog as a therapy dog, well, they're just raising an all intents and purposes a nice family pet. And then they go into some sort of public area for one purpose, really, right? But they're not as complex as a service dog. And that's just, but still, I think that people get them with that really, really keen intention, and then they like overface their dog. So a lot of people do that for both, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard because the people are so excited and they want to do such a good job. And in the case of service dogs, sometimes people have been dreaming about it for years, and it's hard to sometimes to not
Yeah.
overwhelm. Yeah.
So that was just my comment. And then my questions, I have two. So firstly is a quick one. Do you know of any science backing like temperament tests such as like Avidog and things like that?
I mean, the topic of temperament testing is so controversial, and I think I've been seeing some things coming from, I think, rescues, saying that there have been studies of dogs. I believe it was dogs that were in rescue that were temperament tested, that showed that the temperament tests were not predictive, that there was no, uh, I don't remember whether it was that the temperament
Like
tests weren't
validity.
predictive of the specific behaviors, or it wasn't predictive of the
Mhm.
success of the dog staying in the home. I don't remember. But
Yeah.
this is, I mean, so I feel like temperament tests can be useful to some degree, and they can show some things that are helpful, and they're very limited, and I certainly don't rely on them. So what I like the best is to, find a trainer that my client and I feel confident of, um, has a good likelihood of producing a dog that fits what we're looking for, has been breeding for quite some time, really knows their lines, is really dedicated to helping us find the right dog, having that breeder select a two or three puppies that they think are likely to meet that criteria. And then if I'm nearby that breeder, I will meet the puppies and do some testing with the puppies myself. What usually happens, since our clients are all over, um, is that I find a reward-based trainer in the area to do the hands-on testing, while I Zoom in and uh, tell them, what to do in person, and the breeder is there. And I'm just looking to confirm what the breeder has told us, and I'll just do some specific tests about, like, I'll have like something weird to see, what is the puppy's response to a wind up toy or something that they haven't seen before? Are they curious about it, or are they, hiding. If the tester sits on the floor and cries, does the puppy come over to them or does the puppy run away? Just things like that. I'll put aluminum foil. I'll take a roll of aluminum foil and pull off a sheet of aluminum foil because it makes a weird sound that a lot of dogs haven't heard before, but it's not like a big scary sound usually, but it's kind of weird to see, like, is the puppy like, that's weird, I don't care? Or is the puppy like, oh my gosh, that's terrible, or whatever. And then I'll put the aluminum foil on the floor and see, does the puppy like, because it's like a sort of like a mirror, it's shiny. Does the puppy avoid it? They usually avoid it a little bit. Can I lure them with food over it? Like, how food motivated is this puppy? Can I quickly train the puppy to do some sits or some touches and things like that? So I'm just trying to start with everything on the breeder side, and then I'm just want to confirm what we're already hearing from the breeder that we think is likely, because the breeder sees those puppies every day and knows those puppies, and 1 hour on a given day with a puppy is not going to tell you as much. But sometimes you see things that really confirm what you're thinking, or you see like, oh, yellow puppy seems like a much better bet than pink puppy, so we're going with yellow or whatever. But
Yeah,
I don't know any science.
that's helpful. I was just wondering if there was any like had the jury decided on temperament tests yet or anything. And then that is helpful though. And there I have been approached by a breeder recently to do temperament testing like paid. So I feel like if they're at that stage where they're like wanting that, like I feel okay doing that because like to temperament test the whole litter, like it gives them education and then maybe
Yeah,
they can do some more like observe like better observation the next time they breed or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing too that I want to just mention about testing, I think it can also point out when there's something that's um, not consistent with the rest of the puppy. So um, years and years ago, I remember reading Martha Hoffman's book, who's the sort of the pioneer of hearing dog training. She's been doing that for decades and decades. And I remember her describing, she was going through shelters and selecting dogs that she thought might be a good fit, and she found one dog that seemed like a great fit, and was passing all these tests with flying colors. And at a certain point, she realized that she thought that the dog might be deaf. And eventually she did find out that it was deaf. So that's a really important consideration. And things like that can be easy to miss um, in a group of dogs, or a dog who's very confident and relaxed and comfortable with all sorts of things, but is very spooked about a specific thing, or is really comfortable with all sorts of things, but physically uncomfortable with something else. Like, is there a physical issue going on? So sometimes I just think doing some degree of testing is helpful to make sure that everything kind of hangs together the way that you expect it to.
Yeah.
But I
Um,
always defer to the breeder.
so my last question is totally different. It's like more of as a trainer, like perspective. Um, when there, maybe you've seen this phenomenon more times than you can count, when clients are early in their journey, like being that it's owner training, there is less contact between you and them, like, as opposed to like if you're board and training dog. How do you handle them like being inconsistent and or simply like proudly doing their own thing and sort of like telling you about it later, how awesome the dog is doing and all these things that you didn't discuss, or like if we said, oh, we were going to wait until X time to do public access, or and then they're like, we went on a great big trip and they did great,
Right,
like
right. Yeah.
stuff like
So
that. How do
yeah,
you
so
handle that?
owner training service dogs is very different from training a service dog in a program, because we're mostly not really training the dog. We're mostly coaching the owners. So we put a lot of effort, as a person with a disability myself, and many of our staff are as well. we really relate to where the clients are coming from and the importance of the service dog for them and the emotional intensity for them. And we're trying to empower them and give them as many tools as we can. At the same time, recognizing, that we are the experts, right? I've been doing this for 30, 28 years, a long time, 28 years. And there's just a lot that you learn from having worked with hundreds or thousands of dogs that you just don't know if you're just, if you work with 5 dogs or whatever. So and maybe this is a good time to transition to our talking about our classes. Our entry level class is called Pearl Disc, and there's a huge focus on that class in providing. I'm going to skip over to it now and then come back to some of the other things. Empowering the owner trainer to learn to read dog body language, to learn how to adjust training to fit the stage that that dog is at, that specific dog's needs, to how to assess their dog's appropriateness or comfort level with different things. So we're really trying to put as much knowledge into the hands of the owner trainer as we can so that they can make informed, wise decisions with their pups. And we try to be as available as we can be. So there are small classes, there's a lot of individual coaching. I also have like a private Facebook group for clients where they will sometimes post videos and ask questions. So there's a community of other owner trainers in there, as well as us, the professional trainers, to answer their questions. So at the end of the day, the owner owns the dog and they make choices and decisions. And we as trainers don't have control over the people. All we can do is act as consultants and guides, and try to give them the best information that we can. But that's the main way that we focus on it. We provide a lot of information for free too, like the website has our video, which I mentioned before. We have a client portal that has hundreds of training tip sheets and videos. And as I mentioned, the Facebook group. So we try to really provide as much guidance as we can to head off heartbreak and to sort of try to set everybody up to succeed as much as we can. But everybody has their, their individual passions and interests and thoughts, and that's always going to be true, as with any dog owner. So let me scroll back, and I'm going to go over some information and resources for you all. You've been asking such great questions. I have to reel myself in and provide the rest of the information here. So as I mentioned, if you are considering training a service dog and finding a dog to train, I cannot stress enough how important it is to work with a service dog trainer who's done this before to help you find the right dog. I do this because when I started working with clients, out of the first 5 service dog consultations I did, 3 of the dogs had already bitten somebody. The rate of success for the clients who follow our recommendations is very high. It's not 100%, but it's high. And the rate of success for the general population who finds a dog to train on their own is, back when I was keeping statistics on this, it was maybe like 5 to 10%. So your chances of finding the right dog are much higher if you get professional guidance in that process. So as I mentioned, we have the webinar coming up in November, which is an updated version. The world of dogs has changed a lot after the pandemic, and there's just a lot of things that I've seen over the last 3 years that I want to update the information that I used to give. Some things are evergreen, like I was talking about the general service dog temperament that you're looking for. That's Bodie, who the process of finding him was about 6 months of searching.
Sharon, can you give us like one tiny sneak peek of like something that you think has changed that you wanted to update for that presentation?
If I have time, because I have 5 minutes, so if
Yeah,
I have time
yeah.
at the end, I will.
I'm just curious,
Uh,
like what kinds of things. Yeah.
yeah. And then, as I mentioned, we have our DISC program that stands for Dogs and Service Certification. So these are online courses. They're kept very small for students in the level 1 class, which is Pearl, 5 students maximum in the higher levels, bronze and silver. It's exclusively for people who are training their own service dogs. It's a levels program. So Alex and I teach them. So you're getting individual coaching in the class. It's not like an on-demand course. But there are recordings that you can watch later if you miss class or if you want to review. It's appropriate for puppies of any age as well as adult dogs. And it's really very reality based. So like the questions earlier about um, empowering the owner to make good choices on behalf of their dog and raise their puppy in a way that's going to really set them up for success as a future service dog. We also do private lessons online and in person. As I mentioned, we have a community of owner trainers in our Facebook group. Sometimes they're very adorable and supportive. Occasionally they get together, some of them if they're nearby, and meet. And a lot of clients who are very sort of independent DIYers love our client portal with the extensive library of support of written and video materials. The class that we have coming up September 17th is full for working spots. So the only thing available for that class is auditing, which means you're not getting individual coaching, you're just getting recordings. So often like professional dog trainers like to audit our classes so they can get access to the material, but might not need the coaching. But the October 15th Pearl disc class does still have, I think, 2 or 3 spots available. So if you have a dog that you want to train as a service dog, I highly recommend registering for that. It's $390, and that includes the 10-week course. It's 10 classes plus the assessment at the end. So each of our disc classes is a 10-session course and then an assessment. Once you pass both the knowledge assessment and the practical assessment, then you get to move to the next level. We have a deep pressure therapy course coming up in just a few days. This is a wonderful course. I mentioned it earlier. It is taught live on Zoom. So you're getting individual coaching. It's a 45-minute class. It's also super fun. And your dog does need to have some training already. They need to have a release cue. They know how to go to their target and lie down. And they need to be able to stay there for 30 seconds for just one treat at the end. If your dog doesn't have those skills yet, your dog will learn those skills in Pearl Disc. And this one has a $50 discount because we are going to use the recordings for future classes. As I mentioned, we also do private training. So often clients do a lot of their training in the group classes. And then if they want individual task training that isn't covered in a class, we often do that privately. If I've worked with somebody to help them find their dog, their puppy, if they've done pre-adoption consulting, I will also do private training with them to raise their puppy. And then a lot of task training is excellent for online. And we also do on site. We have clients who travel to us from New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, and sometimes I do a little traveling as well. And as I mentioned, we have board and train. Well, I don't know if this video is going to play, but these are
I have both.
Alex on the right with their service dog and training Clippy, and Eli on the left with Bodie when he was doing board and train. and they're learning to work in public around other dogs and ignore them. So board and train is great for puppy raising and socialization. It's great, especially for anything that is difficult for the owner to do themselves, and for any type of advanced training or when you're away on vacation, etc. I also do a mentorship that is specifically for reward-based trainers, professional trainers who want to get mentoring or go into the field of service dog training or want to improve their confidence as a service dog owner trainer, and consulting on that. As I mentioned, I wrote a free ebook. It was geared toward pet trainers, so it was geared toward folks who are doing manners classes, puppy classes, things like that. But I found a lot of clients actually like to get the ebook as well. If you want any further information, we have a lot of information on our blog, on our website, our public Facebook group. I have a YouTube channel, and we have a wonderful newsletter that Lori puts together. It's only 5 times a year, so you'll only get it in your inbox every couple of months or so, and it's full of great information. And if anyone, I don't know if any of you are in Massachusetts, but I am going to be presenting in Littleton, Massachusetts in a couple of weeks. And if you're in the area, I would love for you to stop by, and I'd love to meet you in person. So that's that thing too. And that's it. And I'm sorry we have run over. But I really appreciated everybody's questions. So thank you all so much for coming and for your questions. I think it was, who was it who asked the thing about what I'm going to be talking about that's different in pre-adoption consulting? Shannon, thank you. The availability of rescue dogs has changed dramatically in the last few years. And so that's a significant consideration. And also, I've seen some interesting trends of trainers breeding dogs and things not working out the way that I would have expected. So those are a couple of things. So I hope that's
interesting,
helpful.
yeah. I might have to take those workshops just to hear what else you have to say, because
Okay.
being that I'm only recently certified, like in the last 2 years, I only know the current climate. And,
Ah,
you know,
okay.
how
Gotcha.
it would have been before and how it's
Yeah.
changed. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'd love to see you there. So, and
Yeah.
congratulations on your certification.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun.
Thanks so much, everyone, for attending and for all your great questions. And I hope everybody has a great night. Take care.
Thanks all.